Great. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Candice Huber. I manage the Farmer Grant and the Partnership Grant programs for Northeast SARE. And I am coming to you from the ancestral and unceded lands of the Western Abenaki people. And I'm going to explain today the basics of the Partnership Grant program and then take questions. And then if there are no more specific questions, I can talk more about certain aspects of applying for a grant. I've got some slides that I can pop up. Currently, also, the call for graduate student grant proposals is open, and the session for that program is tomorrow. So today we're focusing on partnership grants. And I'm going to share my screen while I'm doing that. If you have any questions, you can feel free to put them in the chat, or if you would rather, you just pipe up too. I'm going to rely on Vander and Emma to alert me when there's a question, because I have so many screens open and I can never see. So, but feel free to pipe right up too. There's only a few of us today, so that would be fine. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Great, excellent. So, so as I said, today we're going to be talking about the Northeast SARE Partnership Grant Program. The call for proposals is currently open. Northeast SARE, just want to give a little overview first, is part of SARE, which is Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education. And it's a national program. There's 4 regions: the West, North Central, the South, and then the Northeast. That's us. And so our region covers 13 states and districts. We've got all the way from Maine down to West Virginia, and including DC, Delaware, Maryland. And so that's the region that we serve. So to be eligible for this program, you do need to be have a project in our region. The very first thing to do would be to read the call for proposals. It has all the information in it. It explains the program. It lists the questions that we ask and what kind of things we're looking for. It's got the review criteria. It's got all the dates, all the important information, how to submit online, how to do your budget, all of that. So I really encourage you to go to the call for proposals as your first step in this process. And I don't have my chat open, but I think maybe somebody popped that into the chat. Great, thanks, Emma. So that's the link to the call for proposals. So here are the basics of the program. So those applicants can be people who work with farmers in the Northeast region. So you have to be an agricultural service provider. If you're a farmer, we do have a farmer grant program, and those proposals are due in November. So that would be would be the option for you. So these proposals and awards are specifically for agricultural service providers who are working with at least one partner farmer. So you must include collaboration with at least one farmer, can be more. And topics should address opportunities to improve the sustainability of farms. So topics that could potentially have large impact on farmers in our region. The maximum amount you can request is $30,000. And you are required to submit a budget with your proposal and detailed. We do ask for details in the budget. And that's not only just so that we can see how you're spending the money, but it also really helps. It's a good tool for applicants to use to be able to figure out their process that they're going to be doing and really think about what they're going to need for the project. And funds are dispersed on a reimbursement basis, which means you're going to be making the purchase or paying the labor or whatever it is, and then sending us an invoice, and we will reimburse you for that money. It usually takes about 30 days to process through University of Vermont. University of Vermont is our host institution, and you'll see that we are employees. Most of us are employees at the University of Vermont. Emma and Vander and I are. Projects typically run from 1 to 3 years. So for the partnership grants, the contracts will begin August 1st. You can start later than that if you want with your project, but the latest we could go to for these projects would be November 2027. So 3 years is the maximum. Applicants can only submit one per year per program. So if you've got a couple of different ideas, choose the one that excites you more. And the proposal deadline for these projects is April 9th at 5 p.m. And we encourage you to not wait until the last minute. It is a process to submit everything online. It takes a little bit of time. And you also want to leave room for any glitches, because we all know there's always the possibility of technical glitches. So those are the basics. I'm going to stop here because I really am interested in hearing from you all what you kind of specific questions you have. Again, if nobody has any questions, I've got other things I can say, but just want to open it up right now for questions. And we have a little poll for you also. We'll be shooting some polls out to you throughout the program today so that you can help us understand who you all are, as well as what kinds of things you're interested in learning about.
Well, I have a question.
Mhm.
So my name's Neil Schoenwald. I'm with coastalmeasures.com, and we're a startup that is interested specifically with oyster farmers in the New Hampshire and Maine area. So it's a little different than the agricultural, traditional agriculture. And I wonder if you've ever worked with any kind of aquaculture before for grants.
Yeah, very much so. Aquaculture is definitely to us considered a form of agriculture. Oyster farmers, they're farmers. It's a big industry in the Northeast, and I would say maybe 10%, maybe even more, 10 to 15% of our proposals are typically aquaculture proposals.
Okay.
So we do get a good bit. If you go to our projects database, which Emma, could you pop that into the chat? We have a database of our projects, and you can go there and you can search by keyword and region, and you can see what kind of projects we have funded in aquaculture. We've done some really interesting stuff, or not we've done stuff, we've funded some interesting projects.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
And right in, let me turn on my video. Can you tell me who is a service provider? Is there are there bounds on that?
Yeah, anybody who works with with farmers, really, like if could be extension, could be a federal program like NRCS, it could be a consultant, private consultant, it could be a nonprofit organization that works with farmers like NOFA or any of those. It could even be another farmer that actually does work as part of their business with other farmers. For instance, I know one agroforestry chestnut farmer who actually consults with other farmers and provides advice on growing chestnuts. So you do need to be you do need to work with other farmers as your business in order to be eligible. As I said, if you're a farmer and you're looking for funding, we do have the farmer grants in the fall, but you could also find a agricultural service provider who has expertise in what you're thinking about, and then talk to them about it, and maybe they'd be interested in being the applicant or the project leader and applying for a grant.
Thank you.
Yeah. And just to clarify too, the farmer partner, we do have on our website, the definition of a farm I think is what the document's called.
Yeah.
And It explains that a farm is somebody who makes $1,000 or more a year from produce produced on their farm, from agricultural produce produced on their farm. So just for that, yeah, just wanted to touch on that also. So
Candice,
David, yep. are you
yeah, I
gonna
was gonna
answer?
point out David's
Yeah.
question in the chat. Thank you.
David Silverberg asked, is there a place to find successful partnership grant proposals? And couldn't find any related to this specific grant. Is this grant new? You should be able, are you talking about the grant program partnership grants? Because you should be able to search, and it could be called on-farm research or partnership. I think it doesn't just say partnership. I think, I don't have it pulled up, but
Yeah,
I
Candice,
see Emma
I have it open. If you go to that screen and then there's options for region, so select Northeast, and then you can leave it at all states, and then project type, select on-farm research / partnership. And you should be able to find something.
And there is a link in the chat to the same that I searched from 2018 through now. So that gives a pretty good smattering of that. And a lot of the language that's used in the project reports and whatnot is the same kind of language that you'd be seeing in a proposal.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was looking for. I couldn't find, I didn't know what to search for specifically, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Good question, thank you. Yeah, the project database actually is for the entire nation, the larger program, national program, and a bunch of the other regions call it on-farm research, or they have a different name for their program. So yeah, that I could see how that would be hard to recognize. Any other questions?
Well, now I'd like to look through that, but should a proposed project be structured like the way a research proposal would be? It's like I went to school and worked at Oklahoma State and worked on research projects that were presented as experiments. Is that sort of what you're looking for?
Yes, it is it should be a research project of sorts. It could also be education or demonstration. But it does need to have a component where you're assessing it or providing new information to an audience. My battery is running low, even though it's plugged in. So, it's just like, sure, my wires are in.
But yeah,
So it's very,
basically
I
like
don't lose you.
sure, an experiment that measures like a control versus a variable that's being tested and looking for results based on the variability with hopefully statistically significant results.
Yes, yes. So you'll see in the call for proposals, the sections of the proposal, we do ask for an introduction and a summary, and we ask for what kind of previous work about that in this topic that you're building on, or that's given you the basis for your work. And citing, we ask you to provide citations if you have them. And then there's a section for your objectives. You have to identify your objectives for the project, and then your methods and materials. So you have to lay out what you're going to do and how you're going to do it and what you need to do it. And then we also ask for outreach for you to explain what you're going to do to disseminate the results of your project, and then also a timeline for everything, and then again the budget. So it is pretty structured in that way.
Okay, thank you.
Stop sharing for just a moment so I could try to see what's going on with my computer. It's very bizarre. I may need to hang on. I'll be right back. I don't want to lose you while I'm talking. So I'm gonna shift to my laptop straight. See if this helps.
Oh, Candice is working on that. I'm gonna launch a few poll questions. So we can get some more information about how we can assist you all.
Yes, I am. Docking station is not working well. Well, let's just hope for the best here. All right, so. Emma, I'm going to rely on you if something goes wonky,
I got you.
because my computer is not recognizing my charger, either of my chargers, which is
Oh.
a very odd thing. Unless my household is having low power issues, which would be weird. All right. Let me get back to my PowerPoint. There's me. And share screen. All right, sorry about that, everyone. Are there, so before I jump in, that you've got, now you guys have all had a few minutes to soak in what we've been talking about. Does anybody have any other questions before I go back into just talking about the program?
So just a couple of other vague questions. So you said it's based on the grant is reimbursable and we submit kind of an invoice for the reimbursements. I guess I just want to so would it cover salaries for software engineers, and I'll just give a rough list and ideas. Equipment for hardware as well for, I'll give you a rough idea, a buoy that would be immersed in the aquaculture. We have a partner that's a hardware engineer, and he's building a buoy, and that's the idea for the aquaculture, is something that would sit in the water and monitor the water conditions for these aquacultures. And the software part is the section that would take that data and present it to the aquaculture farmers, that would give them information about the water quality and how that would increase the viability of their crop, essentially.
Thank you, Neil. I think we may have lost Candice.
Okay.
So I can give some basic information. I'm not the grant
Sure.
administrator for this program, so what I say is perhaps slightly less reliable than what Candice would say.
No worries.
But in general, we can cover salary and wage expenses. That's an eligible expense as long as the work that's being done is project specific.
Yes.
And we also really encourage, if you're working with farmers, which you have to work with at least one, that their time is also included for compensation.
Okay, great.
Equipment, again, if it's project specific, basically, if it's something that you wouldn't have a use for without the project,
Okay.
we can cover it in full. If it's something that has use outside of the project, we might need to look at prorating, so covering the part of the useful life that will be during the project time.
Right, yeah, I don't think the hardware will be a problem because it's specific. It's actually another startup that they're developing this instrument that would sit in the water. So that's the project. It would be specific for this.
Yeah, that to me doesn't raise any red flags.
Okay,
But
great.
if you wanted to reach out to Candice, I can grab her, put her email in the chat, really for anyone. It's Candice.Huber, which is HUBER @UVM.edu.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So I do not have access to Candice's slides, which is kind of an oversight. But my suggestion is anyone who wants to hang out for the next 5 minutes, see if she makes it back. Feel free to do that. Or if you have other questions, I can give you the first level answer and then we can follow up with Candice for additional answers. One thing that I know Candice would like to go over is our timeline. Thank you, Pam. Have a good one. So I'm going to quickly screen share just so you can see the timeline in the call for proposals. Right, so you all should be able to see my open screen with the call for proposals on it. The final submission date is April 9th. So that's what, like 2.5, 3 weeks away. There are a couple attachments that you'll have to submit with your application, including the budget, which can take a good amount of time. You need letters of commitment from some of your farmer partners, and then you'll also need a grant commitment form, which is whoever's the financial manager, whatever type of role your organization has, whoever's going to be responsible for the money just has to sign a form that says, we know that you're submitting this application and we will be responsible for the funds. So with all of those forms being needed, we really recommend starting early and especially getting those forms taken care of early because we don't accept submissions after April 9th at 5 p.m. We do offer accommodations, of course, if anyone needs those. The earlier you can request any of that type of support, the better. And we'll be able to help you out as you need. After April 9th, our staff will take a look at your proposal and then we'll share it with our review teams. Hi, Candice, welcome back.
Sorry. You're doing great.
Yeah, just running through the timeline. I don't know if you can see my screen, but you're welcome to jump in.
Sure. So you talked about the deadline and the timeline. You could
Yeah.
just get through. Yeah.
We're just at a review panel. So submitted and our review panels are looking over their proposals.
And were you able to answer the question about about what funds we cover?
Yes, although if Neil had any follow-up, feel free.
Great.
No, that's
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe while we're just mentioning the budget a little bit, Emma, could you scroll down to the, I'm sorry, I don't have my PowerPoint. My computer just completely died on me. But so I really apologize, everyone. But could you scroll down to the last page, Emma, or the sample budget? And we can just show that real quick.
Everyone's eyes are gonna hurt for a moment.
Yeah. So explain probably what kind of things we allow, what we don't allow, which is written in the call for proposals, as she probably pointed out. And you do need to submit your budget in detail with your proposal. And it would be the very last 3 pages of the, there we go. And very small for me here, but because I'm on my phone now. But this is the template spreadsheet that we ask for you to use. And there are categories. You've got your personnel, you've got materials and supplies, you've got travel, you've got printing and publications, and then other direct costs, which include things like lab services or consultants. That would be the software engineers. Uh, Costs for hosting a conference, like maybe you want to do an on-farm demonstration, so costs for that would go there. Rental of equipment or space, maybe you need greenhouse space to rent from somewhere to be able to do your project. So this is the template that you would use. You need to have like just a title for the for the expense, like mileage, and then you would need to justify it in the second column. So you would put in there project leader Joe Smith to go to a conference in New York for, vegetables and berries in spring 2025 or something like that. And you would say how many miles it would be and what the round trip would be. And then you would need to put your unit, which would be miles, your quantity, which would be however many miles you need, and then the rate. And we use the federal rate right now because we're talking about travel, but if it was hours, you would put in, the rate of pay. If it was materials and supplies, you would put in how each item costs. And then the last column auto calculates, it has the formula in there. We'll auto calculate the total for that line. And in that way you build your budget. And if you're part of an institution, a lot of mostly agricultural service providers are an institution or an organization, you can request indirect. And if your organization has a federally negotiated rate, you would request 10% of total direct costs. If not, and you want indirect, you can request the de minimis rate, which is 10% of modified total direct costs. And that's explained in the budget template, what constitutes what there. So that's the budget, and really important to put a lot of thought in that, because it actually, the more thorough you are with your budget, the easier it is to be successful with your project. You won't get halfway through and say, oh, I didn't ask for this, I didn't ask for that, and now I'm running out of money. So we encourage you to put a lot of thought into your budget, which can take time. A lot of people ask, just in general, how long does it take to prepare a proposal? And really, if you're used to it, if you've done this before, maybe it won't be too long, maybe just a few hours, several hours, if you've got a real good handle on your project, what you want to do. But a lot of people do, 20 to 40 hours to prepare a proposal, because you've got to get your farmer partner lined up. You've got to talk to them. You've got to go through if you're part of a larger organization, or you need to go through your grants office or your grants people to get them to okay the budget and sign the forms that you need. And because you need to have all your attachments and everything when you submit your proposal on the 9th. So any questions about, any specific questions about the budget or preparing your proposal? I cannot see the chat, so.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat, Candice.
All right. Trying to think what would be most helpful. Sometimes a question we have is what is there to expect once your proposal is awarded? What happens? And the awards will, I think, Emma included this in the timeline, but they'll be announced after the administrative council meeting in July. So at the end of July, you will get your note. Once you're notified if you're awarded, well, if you're not awarded, you will get comments back from the reviewers so you can understand a little bit why your proposal was maybe not selected. And a lot of times it's just because we have a lot of proposals and maybe it just wasn't quite as impactful as other proposals, or maybe reviewers just had a few questions about the design or whatever. So we encourage you to take those comments and apply again next year if you're interested, because you know, sometimes it's just a matter of how many proposals we have and what the pool of proposals is like. And next year, of course, it'll be different reviewers and a different pool of proposals. So you'll be competing against a whole new group of proposals. So there's no guarantee for funding. But we do encourage you to use those comments, maybe apply for funding elsewhere or apply with us again next year. If you are awarded, what happens is I will contact you, let you know, and then I will review your budget. And if the reviewers had any specific concerns about your proposal, like maybe they're like, this is a great proposal, we really want to fund it. However, we do think that they need to add a test for such and such to be able to get a fair, to be able to get strong results. Something like that, a contingency. Usually it's nothing big, but if we need to do that, we'll address that and get your proposal edited for that. But I will go through the budget. It's very rare that somebody can write the budget and have it completely right, because there's categories and there's always some details missing or something, which is fine. And I'll go through it and I'll get back to you with a list of questions of what I need, and then we'll get your budget all tightened up, and I'll send it off for to contracting then, and you'll receive a contract. The contract start date will be August 1st, but you probably won't get the contract in place until for a few weeks after that, because it takes just a little time for that back and forth. You'll need to sign it and send it back. UVM will need to sign it, that sort of thing. So even though the proposals aren't, or the contracts aren't fully executed for maybe 3 to 4 to 5 weeks after August 1st, you can start making expenses August 1st, and that will get reimbursed. So you can get reimbursed for any expenses for the project that are in your budget that are August 1st or later. We can't pay for anything before August 1st. And then once your contract is all set, you can do your project. And if anything comes up during your project, you can let me know. And if we need to reallocate some funds, we can always do that. If we need to extend your project, we can always do that. And you are required to submit annual progress reports in January while your project is active. And that's mostly just so that we know that, you're on track, nothing major has come up, or maybe will alert us to, oh, you're not, your timeline's getting a little tight. So I might reach out and say, hey, what do you think? Will you be able to finish it? Or do you want to, extend your project, that sort of thing. And then at the end of the project, you'll need to submit a final report, which is a comprehensive report of your project, that right into our grant management system. It's actually the same system that you submit your proposal on, but it's got specific questions for the report. And you'll see that when you get in there. It walks you through what kind of information we're looking for in the report. And you can submit invoices throughout the project. Again, it takes 30 days to be reimbursed, usually from UVM. And we suggest quarterly, but if you need to do it monthly because you're making these payments and you got to get them covered, that's fine. Don't wait too long either to submit invoices. We do want to stay on top of that. And then your final report is due 60 days after your project end date. And your invoice is due your final invoice is due at that time also. And it's really important to get that in, and then we can wrap up your project. And once your project is finished, we have no expectations from you. You're welcome to send me updates. And I can always add them into your report. You may have somebody who's found your project on our database, and they may contact you for more information about the project. but typically we don't have, we have no expectations of you. So once the project is complete, you're done. Yeah, we're all done. So that's the way that works. Any other questions at this point?
Hi, Candice. We had some, a question that came up through the polls. I don't know if Emma addressed it while I was disconnected, but someone asked about, designing education around beekeeping, expanding their beekeeping education programs. And I know that qualifies. I'm also gonna drop a link into the chat there with a search for recent partnership grant projects on bees that could give you some, a good place to start.
Mm-hmm. So what was the question in there? Is it?
I think Candice just sort of, is beekeeping eligible, and how might a partnership beekeeping project be structured?
Yes, so beekeeping is definitely eligible. We get a lot of beekeeping proposals, especially with all the, the viruses and the challenges with overwintering bees. And so we do get a lot of proposals in that. And again, you can go to the projects database and see what there is in that on that topic. But yes, you can provide education. Education is a perfectly eligible topic. You maybe want to do like demonstrations, or you want to create a curriculum for beekeepers, or a guide. In order to make it a competitive project, it's important to be presenting information, either presenting new information or presenting information to a new audience, an area that has not had that that information offered to them before. Maybe it's a different audience, a different community that hasn't had access to the resources, or maybe it's a specific curriculum where you're looking at how to overwinter the bees or something like that. You'll see we do have a lot of projects in that way, but it is also really good to make sure you not just throw out the education, but that you have some sort of product from it, maybe like a guide or something to share about what you've created for the demonstration, and then an assessment like of how did the demonstration work. So maybe you survey the people you will be working with before and then after, to be able to assess the impact of that education. Does that make sense? Yeah, so we do all kinds of different topics. And while I'm on the subject of topics, we also we cover just about any topic that offers sustainable solutions to issues farmers face in the Northeast. And ideally it will be, or it should be, relatable to our outcome statement. And maybe Emma, you could pop our outcome statement in the chat, or have you already done that?
But I can do that for you.
It's also in the call proposals, and it's on our website. And maybe Emma, could you read it? I don't have it right in front of me.
Yep, it's Northeast SARE's outcome statement. Northeast agricultural communities honor the holistic connection among land, water, air, and all living beings. Agriculture in the Northeast is accessible, sustainable, and just, addressing historic and current inequities, so all farmers and farm employees can steward resources to ensure sustainability, resilience, economic viability, and a high quality of life.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's any topic that addresses sustainability, so like that could increase production, that is favorable to the environment, that will help farmers' quality of life, maybe labor, that can increase productivity. So there's all kinds of things, all kinds of topics that we cover. There's everything in crop production. It could be pest management, nutrient management, be variety trials, anything having to do with crop production, livestock production, same, any like, disease identification or solving remedies, and or trying new species on a certain area, or grazing, or any kind of agronomy. Marketing could be a cooperative situation for labor, or for marketing, or for any of that stuff. It could be again demonstration or education, and it could also be product development or product testing. It could be product development. There's a difference between product development and product testing. Sometimes we do fund projects where people are actually designing a prototype to solve something. We had a great project recently where they built this gantry system to be able to set out row covers in a greenhouse or a high tunnel, and it was really interesting. So when you're developing a project using SARE funds, you do need to understand that those designs will be available to the public. If the product has already been designed and you're going to just test it, then you don't need to provide the designs. You just need to provide the results of your testing. So that's something also to think about when you're getting SARE funds. Your information will be available to the public. So if you have anything proprietary, you might want to consider that and think that through first. Oh, and I did want to mention also, we have a question now in the proposals about who your farming audience is and who you'll be reaching, and if any of them are underserved farmers like BIPOC, LGBTQIA+, women, veterans. We're looking to see what kind of communities you're engaging in your project, whether it's on the part of you or your partner farmer, that you're having people work on those projects from those communities, or if you're going to be engaging those communities when you have your results, you'll be reaching out to them to share them because they would specifically be able to help those communities. And that is part of the grant proposal now, and it is considered in the scores from the reviewers. So we highly encourage projects that involve any of the underrepresented communities. And we do explain that in the call for proposals, as Emma has there, who we consider underrepresented communities, and what kind of answers we're looking for, or what the criteria is, what kind of questions we're asking about those communities. Any other questions? Emma, could you give me a time check? I don't even know where we are at with the time because my computer's dead.
Yes, it is 12:43.
Thank you.
I'm
Does
going to
anybody
have to drop off. Thank you, everyone, for all the information.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Thanks for the information.
We will be posting this recording. Nothing I'm proud of because of my technical difficulties, but and also all the questions that were on our website. We started an FAQ from these sessions so that we can share these questions and answers with other people.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else want to ask anything specific about maybe their topic, or whether you're eligible, or an expense that you're wondering about? Maybe what kind of work you're supposed to be doing with partner farmers. I don't know if when we talked about budgets, if Emma, you mentioned paying farmers. Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, we to pay your farmer partners and pay them a fair wage and include that in the budget.
One thought, Candice, is for any project, if you don't have if the $30,000 doesn't cover all of your project expenses, there's a place in the proposal where you can explain where some of the other funding might be coming from. So if you didn't include compensating farmer partners in your budget, you could explain how else they would be compensated or any expense.
Yep, absolutely. There's a section called experience, resources, and capacity. It's under project and applicant and collaborator information. And there you can say, farmers, we have such and such resources to offer to farmers who will be helping us, or we've got funding from such and such to be able to take care of this part of the project, so we won't be asking for that. Some people do put into their budget. They may list something like somebody who's working on the project, but it'll say $0, and that's fine, because that way reviewers will see, oh, okay, that person isn't asking for any money for this, but they'll know that it's been addressed. And just be aware that when it comes time for, if your project is awarded, when it comes time for contracting, we remove any of those kinds of things. We remove any item that doesn't actually have a dollar amount associated with it, because we do not require matching funds. And if something is listed and it looks like a matching fund, then there's tracking required and paperwork. And so we just stay away from matching funds. And so it wouldn't be in the final contract, but you're welcome to put it in the budget for the proposal so reviewers can see. However, you can show it so that reviewers can see that it's being taken care of. A lot of that comes too from the timeline. Did you talk about the time? Not the grant. Yeah, the timeline in the proposal. You asked to present your timeline, and suggested is a table form where you put in the activity, and then you put in who's doing it and how many hours it's going to take. And that's a really great way to be able to then, because reviewers will look at that and they'll be like, oh, it said that, so-and-so is going to be, from the timeline, it looks like they're going to be putting in 100 hours, but they're only asking for 20 hours in their budget. So it's good to make sure that the timeline and the budget aligns in that way. And again, the timeline is another tool for you to really lay it all out so you can see everything you're going to be doing. It helps you understand what you're going to need, and particularly in terms of hours and who's going to be doing what. It clarifies that all. So I encourage you to be thorough with that as well. Reviewers really do look at that. It gives them a really good sense of how organized you are about the project and your understanding of the work that it's going to take. Most importantly, I would say, for writing a proposal is to make sure that you explain how your idea is going to be impactful for farmers in the Northeast, how the work that you're doing will be able to be applied to other farmers and work toward sustainability for farming. So for just on the other side of that spectrum, we don't fund projects that will just benefit one farm. Sometimes people want to ask for money so that they can start up an enterprise or expand something, add something to their operation. We don't fund that. It's got to be a project that will help other farmers. That's the main thing. Other tips for writing your proposal. Again, leave yourself plenty of time. Read the call for proposals thoroughly and look at the review criteria so have a good understanding of why we're asking the questions we're asking and the information that reviewers will want to be able to score your project. And yeah, thanks, Emma. This is great to be showing this at the same time. Don't wait till the last minute, as I said before. Technical difficulties, I'm here to tell you, they come up really easily. And make sure you get all your signatures, your attachments ready to go before you submit your proposal. Oh, there is a Word document. There's a link for that in the call for proposals that you can use to prepare your answers. All the questions have word limits. So if you use the Word document, you can use that function for word count and find out where you are with your word count before you put it into the system. Because if you put in a 800 word answer and a 750 word limit, it's just gonna cut it right off. And if you don't catch that, you might, be missing something important. So we encourage you to pay attention to the word counts. You can prepare it offline. A lot of people find that a lot easier. They can just, work on it. On the online system, you can share your draft proposal. So if you need to send it to your Office of Sponsored Programs or your grant administrator, you can go ahead and send them that link, and they can have a copy of what you're doing. And we also encourage people to reach out to your peers for review of your proposals before you submit it, for grammatical errors, for clarity. Maybe they could pick up on something that you just missed. Reviewers have a broad knowledge of agriculture, but they don't necessarily have have expertise in the topic that you're applying for. Hope we try to do that, but a lot of times we just can't cover everything. And so it's really important that you don't use jargon and that you explain everything really well. Don't make assumptions that reviewers will know something about the industry or a technique that you want to use or something. Be very clear and write for that broad agricultural audience. And that's sometimes when you have your peers review it, they can say, what is this? That I've never heard of this. And then you can explain it in your proposal, and that'll be helpful for reviewers too. Yeah. Any final questions before we wrap this up? You're welcome. I appreciate you all coming. Happy first day of spring. Maybe that was the equinox. Maybe that's what happened when my computer decided to flip on its head. So I think we'll leave it there, and you can always contact me. Maybe Emma, could you put my contact information in the chat? You can email me. We can set up a phone call, or you can try calling me. I'm not always available to answer the phone, but I certainly will get back to you right away. Can answer any questions you have that come up along the process while you're writing up your proposal and getting ready to submit. And definitely read the call for proposals. Check out our website and our project database for projects that you related to your topic. And I wish you all the best of luck, and I hope to see your proposals come through.